Strategic management. Strategic management is one of the most important management area we have to look into. So before going into the details of strategic management, we will start with the evolution of the subject. The strategic management evolved from the concept, and earlier it was considered as business policy. And when we are evaluating all this or going through the evolution of the business policy as a subject, we have to trace certain points. And what are all these points? First point is leading with the industrial revolution. So as you all know, industrial revolution resulted in a spurt of the growth of industries. Till or before the advancement or the commencement of industrial revolution, you know the business and the crude form of business, how it was conducted and organized. And once the industrial revolution has taken place, the whole procedure of business has changed. The whole aspects of business has changed. The whole activities have changed. And consequently, the business policy emerged as one of the most important subjects. Because if you go through the evolution, the industrial revolution resulted in the overall growth of business or establishment of industrial units, and the establishment of industrial units necessitated the management, because large volume of people, large volume of resources, large volume of raw materials is to be handled, and for this we require management or we require people of that kind. So industrial revolution necessitated a situation which requires the management, the proficiency of management. So industrial revolution is one of the most important area that contributed for the evolution of business policy. Because people realized that management of business is getting more and more complex. Because complex procedures are involved in it. Complex entities are involved in it. Complex activities are involved in it. Because the organization has to handle 4 different major M's. Like it has to organize men, money, materials and machines. And this management, this handling is a complex procedure, because one of the most important M that an organization has to deal with is men. And the management of men is very, very important as well as a complex procedure. And if you take the word management itself, you can split into 3. Take manage. The word management, from that word you are splitting the first part as manage, the second part as men. So M-A-N-A-G-E, manage, M-E-N, management, and the final word, the word is T, the final alphabet is T, tactfully. So as you all know, management of men is very, very difficult procedure. Unless and otherwise you deal with that resources tactfully, it is a very difficult task. It is a very difficult issue. So that management of men tactfully is a serious it is a complex procedure, and it requires what you can say the help of management. Another M is money, resources, mobilization of resources. So the transition of business from the crude form into an organized form. Earlier business was taken place as a sole proprietorship activity. From there it moved to a place where people from different parts can come together, work together, produce together for the organization, and this is one of the most important area. So money is also important. So in order to construct organizations, in order to set up the resources, you require money. So money in one dimension, and on the other hand, you have to meet the resources, requirements of the resources. So that is the second part. So money is also important. Money plays a crucial role. So money, then comes materials. What do you understand by the materials? So different types of resources are required. Different types of raw materials are required. There are different processes. Okay, all these are resources. Money, materials, different. You have to handle, you have to store, you have to procure, you have to deal with the suppliers, vendors. These will come under the management of materials. So management of management of materials, management of money, then management of machines. This is also another factor or fact that you can link with this point. It is nothing but what can you say that the machines, the mechanization of the business. Mechanization of the business is one of the most important factor that witnessed during the Industrial Revolution. Okay, mechanization, automation of. So, mechanization resulted in the establishment of new industrial units. Mechanization of business establishments resulted in the establishment of new markets. Mechanization of established or business resulted in the growth of business. So, mechanization. So, machines you have to handle. So, management of all these resources like money, machines and materials is a complex procedure. And Industrial Revolution resulted in this complex procedure, and it is very difficult to handle all these resources. So, Industrial Revolution necessitated the emergence of a new area which is called as business policy. So, people recognized that. The managers recognized that you have to evolve a set of policies to manage this business. You have to evolve a set of strategies to manage this business. So, a complex procedure, so it is not a casual approach is applicable to now. And you have to follow it in an artistic manner and in a scientific manner. This is what you have termed in the beginning as management is an art and science. Because as I have mentioned you, management means managing men tactfully. Tact is an art. And whereas managing people or machines is a science. So you can use the scientific tools, you can use the scientific techniques to manage people. And based on those scientific tools and techniques, you can manage people. This is one of the most important factor or a crucial factor that the organization or the society in large has witnessed. So as a result, Industrial Revolution contributed heavily for the growth of a particular field or the evolution of a particular field which is called as business policy, because it necessitated the growth of a particular branch which is termed as the policy or the management of business policies. Secondly, anticipating future to face competition. This is the second aspect. Here you have to remember some of the important elements with respect to the market. According to the market structure, you have different economic structures or economic systems. And according to these economic systems, you have different market structures. And one market structure advocates what you can say the perfect competitive market. Another market structure advocates about the monopoly market. Another market structure says about two players or duopoly. Another market structure says about monopoly. Another one speaks about oligopoly. Another one speaks about price discrimination. So there are varieties of market structure. Different market structures are there. And different rules and regulations are followed in all these market structure. And one of the prominent market structure which still have got relevance is the market structure of what you can say a perfect competitive market. Market structure of a perfect competitive market. And according to the market structure of a perfect competitive market, large number of buyers, what are the specialities, what are the characteristics with a perfect competitive market? Large number of buyers, large number of sellers, and you have what you can say products which have close substitutes. So these three important unique features or the characteristics of a perfect competitive market makes business a very complex entity or element. Because what are the characteristics of a perfect competitive market? As you all know, perfect competitive market is a market where you have large number of buyers, where you have large number of sellers. What do you mean by large number of sellers? Large number of sellers implies large number of competitors. Large number of sellers implies large number of competitors. So, competition is very severe. That's why in a perfect competitive market, the economists are saying that cutthroat competition. What type of competition is existing? It's a cutthroat competition. And what do you understand by the term cutthroat competition? Cutthroat competition is nothing but severe competition. So, the future, as an organization, you identified that the future is very tough, very competitive. So, as a rational person who manages the organization, you have identified that the future is not that much bright in terms of competition. So, what is your role? What is your responsibility? Your responsibility as a manager is to equip the organization. Your responsibility as a manager to equip your organization in such a way that you can face the stiff competition. So, anticipating the future, this is also the order of the day. So in order to anticipate the future, in order to work on it, in order to work out what is to be done, so they have identified that organization should be equipped to face the competition. This is another important factor. So this necessitated what? This necessitated the growth of a field. This necessitated the emergence of a field in which you can say that you have to identify something which is more important. The third element is nothing but long-term planning. Again, going back to this factor, what do you understand by the term planning? So in a layman's language, planning is nothing but thinking about future. So, the complex business procedures, business has emerged as a very complex activity, as I mentioned in the initial stage. Large number of business units emerged, large number of business activities are going on there, and because of that factor, it is identified that you have to plan because competition is there, severe, and how you are going to equip the organization in a highly competitive world, how you are going to equip. So in this moment, you have realized that planning is one of the most important fundamental activity the organization has to do. Or they have identified that planning is the backbone of the management activity. As planning is the backbone of the management activity, the organization has to perform certain tasks. So they have to plan for a long period of time. So planning basically considered in two methodologies, the long range aspect as well as the short range aspect. And in this case, they have identified that planning is also more important. Resultantly, they have felt that policy is required. So they felt the requirement or the need of the policy establishments. So they have realized that planning is also so important. Then, finally, or the fourth point is the analysis of several scenarios for future. Analysis of the several scenarios for future. What is that? This is also one of the most important aspects, that they felt that going with one scenario is very risky. So as a part of better decision making, what we have to do? we have to analyze several scenarios. That is what in decision making. What is decision making? What is decision making? Decision making is nothing but selecting the best possible alternative. So a good decision should have maximum alternatives. And from among those maximum alternatives, you are supposed to select the best possible alternative. So then how you are going to select the best possible alternative? You are supposed to select the best possible alternative by giving maximum weightage to the alternatives. So as long as or the number of alternative increases, the possibility, the probability of making the best decision also increases. And vice versa. That means if you have less number of alternatives, the risk that is associated with your decision making is also very high. The risk that is associated with your decision making is also very high. So this is the case where you can take a particular course of action accordingly and take a decision accordingly. So first of all, these are the 4 important factors that resulted in the emergence of a big academic subject which is called as business policy, which is termed as business policy.